With the new set from Star Wars Unlimited Jump to Lightspeed set to come out here in the near future, I thought now was a good time to kind of jump back in and do some budget deck builds using the leaders from Twilight of Republic. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to TCG Madness, and I am going to be continuing here in the 2025, doing you guys a big favor, hopefully, and building a lot of budget deck builds. Now, this is another budget deck build. We'll be utilizing the leader, Anakin from Twilight of Republic, and again, like I mentioned there in the opening right there, we got a new set coming out, so let's go ahead and take a look at the previous set before the new set comes out. Let's go ahead and go through all the leaders. I'm going to build you guys as many budget builds as I possibly can, and then sometime next weekend, I'll be doing some gameplay footage of it using Felt Table. If you guys want to utilize these tools that I use, there'll be links down below in the description box. Also, too, if you guys can do me the big favor right now, while I have your attention, please do me the favor, hit that like button if for no other reason. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to also hit the notification bell so you guys never miss when I drop a video. And two, comment down below if you agree or disagree, like the build, don't like the build that I have displayed here on this video. Again, if you guys maybe want to do a little do this build a little bit differently, let me know what you guys would do a little bit differently. So the way I kind of run through these videos, pretty straightforward, right? We're going to take a look at the leader, then we're going to take a look at every card in the deck. Then I'll go ahead and show you guys exactly what this deck will run you. So if you build it, I'll give you the exact number. Fortunately for this site, I'm actually able to do that, so that's pretty cool. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys at least a couple of cards that you can easily slide into this deck that would give this deck some much needed firepower. Because when you're doing budget builds, you're not going to get a very high competitive deck. If you were doing on a scale of like 1 to 10, roughly this deck probably coming out like a 6 or a 7. So if you want to push that deck to like 8 or 9 or 10 and make a really competitive deck, I'll have some options for you at the end of the video. Just know though, if you do buy or purchase those cards, then you're putting this deck into what would be less than a $40 deck to easily $100 to $200 plus deck without fail. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into things. So kicking us off, let's go ahead and take a look at the leader. Go ahead and flip him over there. So this is Anakin Skywalker, whatever it takes to win. Aggression, heroism. He has a front ability which says an action, tap it, deal 2 damage to your base. Then it also says attack with a unit. If it's attacking a unit, it gets +2 -0 for this attack. So if you're tapping Anakin, you're going to be doing 2 damage to your base. Then if you are attacking with a unit, no worries. You actually will, if that unit is attacking another unit, you will get a +2. So doing 2 damage to your base, you're like, that kind of sounds pretty bad. But then you're beefing up something else as long as you're attacking a unit with your unit into another unit on your opponent's side. You're like, okay, that's a little bit better. But then it says if you control 6 or more resources, deploy it. So let's go ahead and flip them back over. And this is where Anakin becomes really dangerous. He is a 4/7 with Overwhelm. And it says this unit gets +1 for every 5 damage on your base. So when I read that, I immediately think of blue. And that's the color I comboed with, is blue. The reason why I went with blue is because blue has Restore. So if you're teetering right there on the edge of having like 10 to 15 plus damage to your base, at some point, because you're going to probably lose Anakin, because once you deploy him, of course, anytime you deploy your leader, your opponent usually just going to go right after your leader and get rid of the biggest threat on the board. So unless you have something protecting him, Sentinel, Shield, all those great. But what happens after your opponent gets through all that? Well, we want to make sure that we can then kind of erase some of that damage on our base and then prolong the game as long as possible and maybe allowing us to win the game. So I immediately think of blue. And that's the base we went with. I did go with blue. We went with the Crystal City, 30 health. I do recommend going with a 30 health base with Anakin because, again, if you go with that 25, you are going to be teetering real close to losing pretty quickly. I mean, you do run the risk of going up against an aggro deck and pretty much losing really quickly. So let's go ahead and go over the units. Starting off with the ground units, we have Reckless Gunslinger. Cost 1 to 2/1. When played, deal 1 damage to each base, so that's pretty cool. And then also has the Smuggle for 3 in a red. Put it in a resource, so it works as 2 things. You can smuggle it out, so if you do have a hand, you're like, I don't really like this hand, or you know what, I need something to put down, but I like my hand. Maybe your hand's too good, right? Don't worry, put this into your resource. You can still get it out with the smuggle ability. We'll be paying that additional cost though, so still pretty good there. Next up, we have Sabine Wren. Cost 2 to 2/3. While there are at least 3 aspects among other friendly units, this unit can't be attacked, so that's okay. And then it also says, this is where this is the reason why this card is in the deck, honestly. On attack, you may deal 1 damage to the defender or to a base. Again, it's just extra aggression. You attack with it, you're doing 1 damage to a base or another unit. It's a pretty good card right there. For a little more aggro, we went with a Phase 2 Clone Trooper. It costs 3 to 3/2, and it has Ambush. When you play it, it can attack, so you really got to go aggressive there. For the blue card, we went with the Yoda, the Old Master. I think this card is such a staple in almost all blue decks. I absolutely love this card for so many reasons, too. First of all, it only costs 3, so that's pretty good, cheap cost. It is a 2/4, pretty good on health, pretty good on the power. It's a restore 2 unit, so that's really good right there. And then it says, when defeated, choose any number of players. They each draw a card. So if you were playing Twin Suns, it's a good card. If you're playing normal, you're just going to choose yourself, draw a card. It's really, really good. I'm sure at some point, too, there will be a penalty for making your opponent forcing draw. And correct me if they draw a card, do damage to them, stuff like that. So Yoda works so many different ways. I mean, he only costs 3. He's a pretty good body at 2/4. He restores 2, which is 2 is really good. And then, of course, if he's defeated, you get to draw yourself a card. So he's a draw engine. He's a good body. He restores. He's cheap. All things we just absolutely love about Yoda. Now, for the big body, for the red, we have Wrecker. He costs 6. He's a 7/6. He has Overwhelm, so it sticks right on theme with your leader, so that's pretty good. And then when played, you may defeat a friendly resource. If you do, deal 5 damage to a ground unit, so you can just absolutely remove something with that ability right there and just kind of swing in for game. It's a great card. 3 copies of that is definitely needed. And this card right here is probably one of my favorite new cards that came out with the new set. We have 3 copies of Aurra, Sing, Crackshot, Sniper. And the reason why I absolutely love this card was so needed for Star Wars Unlimited. It costs 7, it's a 7/6, it has Overwhelm. That's not even like the thing that we love the most about it. What we love the most about it is this ability right here. When an enemy ground unit attacks your base, ready this unit. There are a lot of decks now that are going wide and that make those cards to start swinging. So if they go really wide and they just constantly, they have a bunch of 1/1s or 2/2s or whatever it is. Every time something attacks you, you are just readying this unit. You are just swinging right back at them. So they have to really navigate carefully with this card on the deck. With your cards also being blue, you have Restore with this deck, so you can get yourself out of harm's way. If you get this card out, man, and your opponent has gone wide, I mean, they're only pinging you for like 2 or 3 damage, man. You are readying up Aurra Sing, and you are cracking back with 7 damage or eliminating all of their threats off the board with a 7/6 body. Let me tell you, man, this card is so good. Man, if you just play this down and your opponent attacks to you twice, only does 4 damage to you, and you ready her up, and you're doing 14 back, that is brutal. I absolutely love this card right there. So that's it for the ground units. For the space units, we have Anakin's Interceptor, where the fun begins, because it wouldn't be an Anakin deck without his Interceptor. It costs 2, it's a 2/3. While your base has 15 or more damage on it, this unit gets +2/+0, so sticking right on theme with the Anakin leader. We also have the Green Squadron A-Wing. Cost 2, it's a 1/3, and it has raid 2. I went with a very aggressive red deck here, so a lot of the red cards you'll probably notice are very aggressive, very high-powered cards. That's pretty much all it is, man, because once you get damage onto your base, it is game time to deploy Anakin and start swinging back for big damage, right? That's pretty much what this whole deck wants to do. Get up to that 15, deploy Anakin, or maybe get up to like 10 damage, deploy Anakin, and just swing back with all your big heavy hitters and just win game within the next turn or 2. That's pretty much how this deck wants to run. Next up, we have the Restored Arc 170. I love this card as well for the space units. It's a 2-drop, it's a 2/3, and it has Restore 1. That 2/3 is a good body, and that Restore 1 is really good. You get a couple of swings in, restore yourself for a couple of damage. Not bad. And also, too, for Restore, we have the Twin Pod Cloud card. I really do think this card is a very underrated, underused card. It costs 3, it's a 2/2, and it has Restore 2. In the space units is really good. This card, 9 times out of 10, you're going to dump this card off for a resource, but you do like to keep 1 in your hand. Maybe if you draw 2, just dump 1 off to the resource. But if it gets into that late game, dropping this and restoring yourself for 2, as well as some other cards we have in this deck, pretty good, and again, can really get you out of harm's way. So that's it for the space units. Moving on to the events, we have Force Throw. We have 2 copies of this. Choose a player. That player discards a card from their hand. Then, if you control a Force unit, Anakin is, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of the discarded card. So it's a pretty good card there. We also have 2 Yoda, who also is a Force unit as well. So you can also utilize Yoda in that card as well. Next up, for removal, we have Daring Raid. It costs 1. We have 3 copies of it. Deal 2 damage to a unit or a base. You can do it to yourself, or you can do it to your opponent. So again, if you want to just kind of pay 1 to add another damage to your base, maybe that gets you up another ladder, so Anakin gets another buff on that one, you can use it. Or to get rid of those pesky cards if your opponent goes wide. A lot of droid units, rebel decks, droid decks, they go wide, so this card definitely is a good card to have in the deck. Next up, we have 2 copies of Repair. Heal 3 damage from a unit or base. Again, Another good card that gets you out of harm's way. It's a blue, so we have kind of both the blue version and the red version in this deck, and it's kind of needed. And then other for removal, we have 2 copies of a 3-drop Open Fire, deal 4 damage to a unit. Love this card. Now for the fun stuff. Now we go into the upgrades. We have 3 copies of Heroic Resolve. It's a 1 cost. Attached unit gains action. Pay 2 resources, defeat Heroic Resolve on this unit. Attacking with this unit, it gets +4 and gains Overwhelm for this attack. So if you just want to swing in for 1 last time, or you want to swing in for game, this card, tap 2, destroy it. It's going to get +4, as well as all that other damage that might be on your base. So Anakin can be really strong, and it's going to have Overwhelm. If it's not on Anakin, don't worry. You can put it on anything else. It does not say you have to put it on a Force unit. It does not say it has to be a droid unit. It has to be no specific whatsoever. By itself, it does give you +1/+1, so not too bad. Also, we went with Armed to the Teeth. It's a 2-drop upgrade. Attached unit gains on attack. Give another friendly unit +2/+0 for this phase. By itself, it will give you +2/+0, and you can also smuggle it as well too. So another good card that if you have, too good of a hand or you don't know what to drop, just drop it in there and just know that you can always smuggle it back out late in game. You will be paying though 5 instead of 2, so just know that. I also like this card too because again, it's another aggressive red card that can help you go tall with your cards instead of going wide. See, I didn't go wide with this deck, I went tall. Play a couple of units, get them as beefy as possible, swing in, do a lot of damage. Next up, 2 copies of Devotion, cost 2, it gives you +1/+1, and of course attached unit gains restored 2. Again, just helping you restore and just getting you out of harm's way. And then last but not least, we have 3 copies of the Jedi Lightsaber, cost 3. If attached unit is a Force unit, it gains on attack, give the defender -2/-2. Just on its own though, it's still a great upgrade. It gives you +3/+3. Really good there. So that's the deck itself. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what this deck would cost if you would build it exactly how I built it. So as you guys can see, if you build this deck exactly how I built it, this deck will run you $32.73. And you guys can see exactly how it's split. 6 ground units, 4 space units, 4 events, 4 upgrades. Pretty good even split across the board. And again, we are well under our $40 budget. And again, you're just barely over the $30 budget, honestly. I think for 30 bucks, this is a pretty decent deck. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it about a 7. It's not that bad. Definitely can use some higher power cards in there, and I'll show you exactly what those cards are. Just know, if you put these cards in the deck, you're going to be going over into the hundreds, almost in the $200 range. But as it sits right now, this deck will only run you $32.73. I think it's a pretty good budget to have. And again, building budget decks accomplishes a couple of things. If you built this deck and you don't spend a lot of money, you can play this deck, have a good time, and see if you really do like it. Maybe this isn't fitting your playstyle. Maybe this is just not the playstyle you want to play with. So don't worry, you only spent 30 bucks on the deck. Scrap it and go build another one. That's kind of what these budget builds are supposed to be like. Is to give you an idea of maybe what kind of decks you want to build either for the future or to understand what your playstyle is without breaking the bank. But if you're not balling on a budget and you want to absolutely break the bank, here are some cards that you can easily purchase right now. Slide into this deck and you can give it some much needed firepower. Kicking things off, we have Kai Adi Mundi. If you were to put this card in the deck, $10 a copy, you probably go with a couple of copies, but this card is a very, very, very powerful card. It only costs 5. It's a 5/7 Force Jedi unit, so again, it has that Force capability, so it goes good with a couple of our upgrades as well. And it does have Coordinate. When an opponent plays their second card each phase, you may draw 2 cards. Let me tell you something, we don't have a lot of cards that really do a good job drawing a lot of stuff, especially in blue. So this card right here, I mean, no doubt your opponent will play more than 1 card a turn here. So when they play their second card each phase, to be able to draw 2 cards, this unit only costs 5 too. So you're gonna be able to drop this card pretty early in your game, by the way. So definitely recommend maybe putting this card in the deck. Next up, we have Luke Skywalker. This still is one of the most powerful cards in blue in pretty much all of Star Wars Unlimited, honestly. It does cost, it's a 7-drop unit. It is a 6/7. But it has restored 3, and then it says give an enemy unit -3/-3 for this phase. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give that enemy -6/-6 for this phase instead. So it works as pseudo removal. It also works as healing your base for restored 3. It is another Force unit as well. So this card goes really good with the Anakin deck that I just built. You'll notice too, we had a lot of red cards, so the red really does overpower the blue. So a lot of these cards though are blue, but they're just very, very expensive. If you were to put 4 copies in this one, you're looking at well over $100 for just no, excuse me, not 4 copies, 3 copies, you're looking at $100 for 3 copies of Luke Skywalker in that deck, which would then put your deck into the $130+ range. Next up, we have Crackshot Dragon. This is from Shadows of the Galaxy. Cost 9, 10/10, Overwhelm. When an opponent plays a card, you may deal damage equal to that card's cost to their base or ground unit they control. So this one, a very aggressive, very powerful card. You can see right there, it costs $18 from TCG player. Maybe you put a couple copies of this in the deck, but again, you're gonna be breaking that budget. Again, all these cards, if you were to put them into the deck, would get you closer to the $100, except for Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is just going to put you well over the $130+ range, probably even be closer to the $150. Moving on, we have K2SO. This is from Sparkle Rebellion. It's a nice unit, red, cost 4, 4/4, Overwhelm, so sticking on theme with the Overwhelm. And this is when defeated for each opponent, choose one, either deal 3 damage to that player's base or that player discards a card from their hand. Definitely would like to put 3 copies of this in the deck, but that's going to run you about, you know, $15+, maybe almost closer to 20 after taxes and shipping and stuff like that, which again will be breaking your budget, and then you'll be going closer to the $100 range. Again, any one of these cards will break the bank, but definitely will give that deck some much needed firepower that it does need. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you made it this far, please do me the big favor, hit the like button. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, too, comment down below if you like the build, don't like the build, maybe what would you do a little bit differently. Again, have you guys built a lot of Anakin decks? I saw that leader and I was like, hey, that's a really good deck that I personally would like to build. Let me know what other leaders you guys would like me to build next for budgets. We'll be doing more of these type of videos. I've been doing a lot of deck builds so far. So again, if you're someone who really enjoys TCG, deck builds, booster box openings, you're at the right channel. Consider hitting that subscribe button. If for no other reason, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys next time.